Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Neal Howard, here on Health Professional Radio. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We're going to have a conversation with Mr. Jay Scott. He's co-executive director of Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation. He's also the proud father of three sons, Patrick, Eddie, and Joey. And he's joining us on the program today to talk about Alex's Lemonade Stand. And it's a not-for-profit foundation for childhood cancer. And I'll let Mr. Jay Scott tell us all about it. Welcome to the program, Jay. How are you?
I'm great, and thanks for having me on.
Right. Now, Alex's Lemonade Stand, let's jump right into that after you give us just a little bit of family history.
Well, I am lucky to be the father to four kids, three boys and a girl, like you said. Alex was our only daughter, and she was diagnosed with cancer when she was one, and it was a very difficult time for us. But if your goal in life is to make an impact, she certainly packed a lot of living and a lot of impact into her 8.5 years.
We're talking childhood cancer. What exactly was it that Alex was diagnosed with?
She was diagnosed with a cancer called neuroblastoma. It started on her adrenal gland and spread from there.
Is this a rare type of childhood cancer?
Childhood cancers luckily are rare. Although they take the lives of more kids in the U.S. than any other disease, they still are rare. And neuroblastoma is rare as a rare but aggressive type of childhood cancer. It affects probably around somewhere between 600 and 700 kids in the United States every year. And so, she was one of the unlucky ones.
Being so young, you're keeping such a close eye on your baby. And what were some of the symptoms that raised some of the biggest flags for you and your wife?
Around 9 months, she started being a really unhappy kid, and she wanted to be held all the time. She was eating a lot. She started losing weight. She loved to eat meat. It was really unusual. As a 9-month-old, she just was craving meat, but she was losing weight, and then she started sweating a lot, and just wanted to be held even when she was sleeping. And so my wife, we kept bringing her back to the doctor, and the doctor was telling us that she was okay. And my wife had this mother's intuition that something was wrong and going on in her belly. And after a lot of doctor visits, we eventually brought her to the emergency room and at a children's hospital and said, listen, we don't want to leave until you can figure out what's wrong with her. We thought she had a stomach ailment or something. And, once she saw a neurologist, the neurologist said, I think she has a tumor on her spine or in her brain. And she was right, because by that time the tumor had wrapped around her spine, and she didn't have great reflexes in her knees. So
this had been going on with misdiagnosis being a major culprit. Once things were pinpointed, what was the course of action?
Well, she went into surgery almost immediately, within a day. She went into surgery the day before her first birthday. And when she came out of the first surgery, it lasted a long time. It lasted I think around 14 hours. When she came out, she was in the critical care unit. They realized that she had actually been paralyzed during the first surgery, and they rushed her back in for a second surgery to try to figure out what was going on. And so when she came out of that second surgery, they told us that she was paralyzed from the chest down because the blood supply to her spine got compromised during the surgery, and that she would never be able to walk or anything.
So in spite of all that dire news, a lot of good came out of Alex's situation in the form of Alex's Lemonade Stand. Now, she didn't pass away until she was 8 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. She fought her cancer for 7.5 years, and miraculously, she regained movement in her legs. She never regained sensation, so she was never able to feel her legs, but she regained movement, and she learned how to walk without feeling her legs.
Wow.
And, she didn't walk like a normal kid would walk. She used a walker or would hold on to tables and walls to get around, because sometimes she would lose her balance. But there's a huge difference from being paralyzed to that. And so, her cancer kept coming back again and again. And finally, we had gotten 3 opinions, and all 3 opinions differed on how we should treat her. And eventually, when she was almost 4, all 3 hospitals in big cities on the East Coast agreed on how we should treat her, and that was to stop treating her, take her home, let her spend her remaining days out of the hospital because she was going to die. And one doctor, told us that we should go to a fourth city, and that was in Philadelphia, and that they might have a treatment that could help her, because in childhood cancer, you don't get the same treatment.
Yeah.
It depends where you're at. And so we went down to Philadelphia, and they had this experimental treatment. It was the first time she got an experimental treatment, and it changed her life.
Wow.
She went in for this treatment. She was on morphine 24 hours a day. The cancer was as high as her neck and as low as the bones in her left foot. And the treatment was scary. She was almost 4, and she had to be in isolation in a lead room. So the walls and the ceiling and floor were made of lead. She had to stay in bed and be behind a lead shield, and one person was allowed to be in with her at a time, and so one parent. And the parent had to wear a radiation meter, and they injected her with this radiation that went through her bloodstream and attacked her neuroblastoma from the inside out rather than radiating it from the outside. And so she had to stay in that room till she was no longer radioactive. She got out in about 3 days. And when she got out, she said 2 things. She said that treatment worked. And my wife said, "What do you mean the treatment worked?" She said, "I could tell by the way I feel."
Wow.
And it was right after Thanksgiving, and then she said she wanted to go shopping for a Christmas dress. So it was like we were taking home a kid completely different than the one we brought in, because she was completely off pain medicine. She was completely off the pain medicine. She was happy, and she had life in her again.
And that happiness, Alex's Lemonade Stand has helped so many kids, so many people, able to raise over $1 million through Alex's Lemonade Stand.
She raised over $1 million while she was alive.
Wow. Yeah.
If you fast forward to today, we're approaching $200 million, and but when we went back to home in Connecticut, she went into the hospital. They did a scan, and they said, they called us up and they said that treatment worked. And we said, "What do you mean?" They said, "All the cancer's gone except for one small spot on her spine. It's gone in her neck. It's gone in her foot. The big bulky tumor is gone in her abdomen. But there was one spot left on her spine." So they said, "Listen, we're going to reschedule her transplant." She had been scheduled for a transplant. They called it off because she was too sick. They said, "We want to reschedule it." And so the day after her 4th birthday, she went in for a stem cell transplant. Yeah. So it's similar to a bone marrow transplant. And it was while she was in the hospital for that month that she just said to us one day, "Hey, when I get out of here, I want to set up a lemonade stand." Yeah. So that was January. We told her, "Listen, it's January. Nobody wants to buy lemonade in January. We live in Connecticut." And so she kept asking when she got out of the hospital, "I want to set up the lemonade stand." And when we said, "What toy do you want to get? Because we'll just buy it for you." She said, "No, I don't want to keep the money. I want to give it to the doctors, so they come up with treatments like the one I got in Philadelphia." Yeah. And so it had such an impact on her that she thought she could make a difference as a 4-year-old setting up a lemonade stand. And
through Alex's Lemonade Stand, there are other programs, some programs that have sprung forth: Travel Care, Travel for Care program, Super SIBS, and Childhood Cancer Treatment Journal as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Travel for Care is probably our largest non-research program. So most of the money we raise, we fund research looking for new treatments. But what we realized when Alex was in treatment was that sometimes you have to travel for care. And, living in the Northeast and having a good job, it wasn't an issue for us to travel, 200 miles. But for some people, it's a real issue if you have to travel to get your kid the treatment they need. And we don't want people to have to decide, are they going to pay their rent? Yeah. Are they going to have food on the table? Or are they going to get the kid the treatment they need? So we'll pay for the families that need to travel to get to the hospital that has the treatment.
Talk about the one cup at a time philosophy that basically underlies Alex's Lemonade Stand.
We believe every donation is important. A lot of our money is raised from lemonade stands, still millions of dollars a year. We'll raise $25 million this year. Still $3 or $4 million will come in from lemonade stands. And so we believe every cup of lemonade that is sold is important, because you don't know which dollar is going to lead to that cure, because every dollar is important. Every dollar is doing something. It's finding a data point, and we just want everyone to be able to be part of finding cures for kids with cancer.
Now, where can our listeners go online and learn some more about Alex's Lemonade Stand and become involved?
If you go to alexslemonade.org, or you just Google Alex Lemonade, you will get to our website. We have so many ways for people to get involved, small ways, big ways, and everything in between.
Well, I'm hoping that you'll get much more support and get the word out more and get more funding for extensive and extended research. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio with your host, Neal Howard. Thank you for joining us today in studio with Jay Scott, co-executive director of Alex's Lemonade Stand. Transcripts and audio of the program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, listen in and download at SoundCloud, and visit our affiliates page at healthprofessionalradio.com.au.